Hello guys, so in this video I'm going to show to you how I implemented um, the video streaming and how I used OpenCV to process this video streaming. So that's what I'm going to show to you guys in this video. I did one video before, but the audio was horrible because, as you can see, I don't have a microphone, and the microphone from my computer it has a lot of noise. I try to get rid of that noise with Audacity, but it's not good enough. So what I'm doing now is using my phone to record the audio, and on the computer I just record the screen. Anyways, so you see here that you have two HTML elements. You have the video element and you have the canvas. Okay, and you have three buttons at the bottom. You have start video, process, and stop video. Okay, start video, it just start the streaming from the camera and display it on this video element. When you press the process button, you take the information from this video element, you apply some OpenCV functions to that data, and then you display that transformed information inside the canvas. In this case, we are applying a color change transformation from color to black and white or grayscale. And when we press the stop video, we stop the streaming and the process. So if you want to do all over again, you start the video, you only have the incoming streaming. If you want to process the video again, you press the process button again. The process and the start video can be both in the same function. In this case, because we are just beginning to learn about this video streaming and OpenCV, I separated these two functions into two buttons with one function corresponding to one button. Anyway, I did two functions. So now let's go to the code. You need forget about all the other the remaining HTML code. This is the important one. Discard is discard, and we have the video element and the canvas element with some IDs set to them. Okay, and below those elements we find the three buttons, each button with a corresponding function that is executed when we click that button. And that's it, that's the skeleton of this small application. Now let's see what does the functions do. So when we click the start video button, this one, we execute this function. Let's go and see that what that function does. What that function does is to get the video element, and then it gives a event handler for the onPlay event. So when the onPlay event is triggered, this code is going to be triggered, and the onPlay event is triggered when we call the video.play. Okay, so let's see what happens when we click on play. When we click play and we trigger the event handler. So the tricky part, and why this documentation is not good, is because by default this is not going to work. At least I didn't understood this guide, or maybe there were actually missing steps. Anyway, for some reason, when you get from the video component to a canvas, you need to modify some video properties. You need to do this. Set this property. This is the video element. That variable will be this one. Okay. So for some reason, we need to set this property to this property, and this one to this one, before doing anything. But after the video has finished the logic to start displaying the data, in this case the data coming from the camera. So that's why we set a handler on the play button that executes this change in the properties of the video element. So what this function does is that it creates an interval, okay, that is going to be checking whether the video is displaying an image or not, because when the video is displaying an image, this property is bigger than 0, and this means that this property has been set to the corresponding video height. And when that happens, you assign those values to these properties, and then you clear the interval. You don't want this to be looping on the background, so you clear the interval. That is what this bunch of code does. Okay, these lines of code, what they do is to set the size of the canvas to be the same as the size of the video. Because if you don't do that, when you move when you change the size of the page, the canvas is going to change freely. It's going to expand and diminish, and that looks ugly. So this is just for designing purposes. Okay. So once you set these properties in the right way, you can continue with this. So by default this is not going to work if you just copy paste. Now the streaming is also another variable that you need to handle and create, and also it's not given. The instructions for that variable are not given in this guide, so that's another thing that is missing there. I actually didn't read line by line this thing. Maybe just accusing them without actually reading the documentation, but I am almost sure that they don't tell you that. So anyway, let's continue with that. The streaming variable, it needs to be global. So an easy trick is to just give this streaming variable to the window object that can be accessed everywhere. So you say we are streaming, so set the streaming to true. Okay, and that's everything that we have explained until now is inside the event handler when you start playing the video. We are still on the function that is executed when you press the start video. We haven't finished explaining this function, so let's continue. Then on the event that the video is paused, you set the window streaming to false. Okay, and then use this code. What it does is to get the streaming data from the camera to the video element. That is the way you set this. That is the way you do the that action. So you have the callback, you play the video. This is boilerplate code, so I haven't changed anything here. This is the same as given to you here. No, wait. Here. This is just a copy paste of this. This starts the streaming. Okay, and that's it. That's the function for this action. That's the code for this action. To display the streaming from the camera into the video element. Next, this function is triggered by this button. Let's explain the function. So again, you get the video element and you set two OpenCV objects, matrix objects, with the video height, video width, and then you get the object video capture that is going to receive the video element as input, and it's going to give you an object that will handle the information coming from the video element. Okay, imagine this like images stacking, piled up images. And then we arrive to Well, this is frame per second. I set it to 5 just for, you can set it to 60 if you want. You see the resolution, the refreshing rate is nice, but it does a lot of calculations and my computer starts to making noises, so that's why I set it to 5, because I don't want those noises when they are not needed. So now you process. Okay, so this is the function that loops. All this is just a loop that will take this data and display it on the canvas every 5 frames per second. That is what this bunch of code does. So let's explain this code. So you have a try catch block inside the try. You check whether we are streaming or not. If we are streaming, we don't execute this. If we are not streaming, if streaming is set to false, we execute this, which deletes these objects created here. It returns, and once you return, you break the loop, as we are going to explain later, or we're going to explain this now, not later. But so this is, you get the date, this line, and this one are used to calculate the frame per second, or the delay, in which we are going to execute this loop, and that will set the frames per second. So this is the formula you need for the delay, to correspond to the frames per second. Okay, so this is a recursive function. You call set timeout once, and once you call this function to be executed, inside this function we find another set timeout that calls this function again after this delay. So once you break this chain, if you return here, you're going to stop the loop, because you're not going to call the function again. Okay, so that's for the skeleton of the function. Let's do what we are actually doing here to read the data from the video and displaying on the canvas output. So you have this element, this OpenCV object that receives a video element and gives back an object. In this case, the name of the object is cap. Cap will give the source. OpenCV object is going to give a frame, an image from the video object, and it's going to transform the source as if it was an image, a normal image, the ones that we have seen before. And with those images we can do the common OpenCV process. So we set, it's like setting It's like giving each frame, we extract the data from those frames and we set the source as an image. And then we process these images. We have been processing them before. In this case, we change the color. We can do any other transformation. Just for the sake of simplicity, we are going to just do the black and white transformation. And then you display that into the output canvas, as we did in the previous tutorials when we wanted to apply a transformation to an image. From here to the button, so these are the typical transformations to image using OpenCV, and that's it. Then you calculate the delay and you call the function again with that delay, and the loop loops all over again. When you finally the stop video button, execute this one. That is going to get the video element. It's going to pass it. So yeah, so this stops the video, execute. It calls the component, executes the function that passed the video, and then we trigger the event handler on pause, and we set the streaming to false, and then we stop processing the video. Otherwise, we're going to endlessly process the same image, the last one that we got from the video. And that's it. That's the way you do this. Next, we want to be able to I want to merge this section to this section and apply all the transformations to the video, like this, instead of just doing this. And that's it for this episode. I hope you learned something, but with just copy pasting the code that I showed to you, you should be able to replicate this. And it's not that much of a code, it's just these two elements and the three functions, and they're not more than, let me see how many lines of code, 100 lines of code, even less because with all the empty space, like 80 hundreds lines, no, 80 lines of code. And that's it for this video. Goodbye.